Today's review is Host. This is a 2020 horror film directed by Rob Savage. This one seemed to come out of nowhere, direct to streaming. It's a Shudder exclusive, as far as I know, at least here in Canada. And it kind of came during a very unpredictable time in movies, right at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic and all of the lockdowns and all of that stuff. And the interesting thing that you saw in movies and TV was some would lean into it, some would make the real life situation part of the narrative, others would completely ignore it, which is, I guess, fair enough because that's pretty much what happened in real life. Some people addressed it, some people ignored it. But this one, I think it really touched a nerve with a lot of people, and it came really at the perfect time during all of this because it's so rare. I think that, I mean, literally the entire world has this shared experience of this pandemic in the news and life and all the lockdowns and this feeling of isolation that a lot of people felt, and not just that, but uh, people kind of being stuck in like certain relationships that maybe they otherwise wouldn't be in if it weren't for the lockdowns. People uh, drinking too much, taking up smoking again, and things like that. So it was a really kind of edgy time in all of our history, and this movie kind of taps into that feeling, at least, and surrounds it with a horror film, and using a very, I think, clever device with the Zoom chat as the entirety of this movie. The movie lasts about as long, or maybe like a little slight bit longer for story's sake, than an actual Zoom call would last. So that's one thing that became just part of everyday life. The Zoom calls, people would have parties, instead of going to the bar, go out and party at the bar. Instead of that, they'd stay at home with their friends and do a Zoom party and things like that. So that became very familiar and very easily kind of relatable when you put this movie on. But I suppose that gets kind of tired after a while. And what other things can we do? What other interesting group activities can we do over this Zoom call? And host's answer to that is a seance. And of course, being a horror film, it's a seance that goes terribly wrong. So it's a great premise for a horror film. Something, I mean, we really haven't seen. I mean, it's, I mean, I guess sort of maybe the closest thing that you could compare it to would be something like Unfriended, where that was like kind of like a whole group chat kind of thing. But that was, more, that's kind of like a studio movie. It was kind of glossed over a little bit. Had, a very strict plot that it followed, and, had these good looking 20 somethings in the roles, and it's all really about their relationships and kind of like that, with kind of like a supernatural edge to it. So a very Hollywood version. This is anything but Hollywood, this movie, which I appreciate about it. And you look at the cast, and they look like normal people, which is great. I mean, it's just your everyday average kind of people on this type of seance chat, group chat on Zoom, and they bring in this medium, and they're trying to get this seance going, and they make a little drinking game out of it. Like every time the medium says astral plane, take a drink, and things like that. And it has certain rules to it that establish that the medium establishes, and that's pretty, I think, crucial in setting that up, and how we find out kind of why and how things went wrong. I mean, basically, they're visualizing this circle and unbreaking the circle, and calling out, and ultimately what kind of sets things off is that this one character, Jenna, or Gemma, I believe her name is. She plays a little joke and says she's being contacted by this spirit of a kid from school who killed himself or something like that. And she's like, ha ha, what a joke. Meanwhile, the medium gets cut off. She can't guide them. And when she is able to come back, we discover that that's a big no-no. If you kind of like invent, a person that doesn't exist, it summons a false spirit, creating a mask of a sort that any uh, entity can kind of come through and wear, quote unquote, and it turns out it's something demonic, and that's basically how the movie kind of progresses, and the scary things happening with this demonic presence that visits all within the circle. And it starts out as kind of the, oh, there's a noise in the attic, better investigate it kind of thing, and it really just goes even further from that, and even worse and scary, and the kind of stuff that you'd expect from a horror movie and a found footage horror movie as well. And I mean, maybe there's a little bit of like maybe way back when found footage was first kind of starting, uh, you'd kind of feel that they have to justify certain things about it. Like, why would they carry the camera with them and never stop? I think we just accept it now, you know. So I'm just visualizing in certain parts of this movie where a character is like carrying their whole laptop and facing it in front of them and getting their point of view for whatever reason. Maybe because it provides light or something like that, which is fine, I guess. So if you can suspend your disbelief for that, a really scary movie unfolds. I have to say, it's a very effective horror film, very effective within, I guess you could call it, the found footage genre, and it has that little bit of extra in that it does kind of touch upon the real life horror of kind of the fear and unpredictability and isolation that we all kind of felt during this very specific period in time. So in a sense, it's kind of like a time capsule of that, but in another sense, it's just a timeless kind of horror film, and I think it executes itself better than something like Unfriended, which I liked Unfriended and Unfriended Dark Web. Those were fine movies, but there was something really special about the craft of this one, and of course the setting. So if by any chance you haven't seen this, take a trip down memory lane to those glorious months and months of lockdown and enjoy Host, a very good movie. Definitely worth checking out if you haven't. So that's my review today. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Stay tuned for more for 31 Days of Horror Spooky Movie Season. And until next time, stay scared.